Hey everyone, Vance from the Gleeman here, back today with another What Quickie. Today's What Quickie is part of the accepted test tag, which was started by my friend Riddhima. So let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off with question number 1. How did you first hear about the Wheel of Time and what made you want to read it? So I first heard about the Wheel of Time in 2005 on recommendation from a friend. I was kind of getting into Buddhism and other Eastern philosophical and religious traditions at this time, and he mentioned that the Wheel of Time specifically borrowed some concepts from Hinduism and Buddhism, as well as some from Taoism and so on and so forth. This intrigued me. At the time, there wasn't very much in fantasy that was focused outside of the Eurocentric view, so to speak, so it piqued my interest. I picked up Eye of the World, and began reading it, and at first it starts off just like your typical traditional fantasy with a small village and a small group of friends who take off and set off on an adventure. I was like, okay, this is fine, whatever. I read it, and then I got to like chapter 10 in roughly the first day I think I had the book, and I said, I'll get back to this later, and I set it down. I didn't touch it for 5 years. From 2005 to 2010, I didn't read the book at all. A lot of things happened for me in this time. I graduated high school, went to college, worked various part-time jobs, just lived my best student life as I could at that time. And then in 2010, one of my favorite bands released an album called At the Edge of Time. That's right, Blind Guardian, At the Edge of Time. Featured not one, but 2 Wheel of Time focused songs. This re-inspired me to pick up the book and get back into the series. This time in 2010, I was completely hooked, and it demolished probably the first 7 books within 2 years, which with my college class load at the time, I was roughly a senior, I think, in that time span, so I had a lot of actual school reading to do and stuff on top of it. I felt reading for pleasure at that pace. It was pretty good at the time. So yeah, I slowed down again when I started working full time, just less time to read, all that stuff, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I eventually found my way to the audiobooks and finished the series in 2019. And here I am in 2020 making WoTTube videos. So who would have thought? Number 2. If you had a chance to join an ajah of the White Tower, which one would you choose? I think I would pick the White Ajah just because I enjoy philosophical musings and, getting into a lot of discussions about how these ideas we create impact our lives, so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. And since I picked the White Ajah, the sub-question for number 2 is, what is a pet theory or headcanon you have about the Wheel of Time? So this one's going to contain spoilers for A Memory of Light. So if you have not finished the series, go ahead and click off now. Alright, now that we've got that spoiler warning out of the way, my personal pet theory about the end of the series, and specifically of how Rand is able to light the pipe at the end, is that somehow ter'angreal and the base reality of the pattern have been stitched together. I think this happened due to a couple of things. Number 1, I think Perrin and Slayer switching back and forth between the 2 worlds in the flesh while the pattern was so unstable from all the balefire and how close the Dark One was caused some weird meldings. Number 2, I believe that when Egwene unleashed the Flame of Tar Valon, she actually took elements of ter'angreal and stitched them into the pattern to create a stabilization effort, so therefore bringing them closer together. And number 3, and this is a big one, remember when Rand was outside the pattern and then put back into his body while he was fighting with the Dark One? Don't forget that after he's physically back in the pattern, he basically punches a hole through the pattern and through the Dark One's prison and strangle grabs that little guy and pulls him through. So Rand has punched a hole literally through reality, through which anything can happen. We don't know. Then, on top of that, he takes not just Saidin, not just Saidar, but also the true power with this hole through reality while he's holding the Dark One and reforms the prison. I mean, if we think that something didn't happen, we're not thinking about enough shenanigans here. Something is totally going on when Rand does this. And I do believe that the not merging, but the flattening and stitching together of ter'angreal and the pattern are an absolute possible result from this. And I think it's interesting because if that is the case, Wolf Brothers and Dreamers are going to be essentially gods in this new fourth age as we move forward. And you'll actually see channeling later on become less and less relevant because you can't just will channeling into doing something. So we could see the actual birth of quote-unquote mythological gods, which I think plays into Jordan's, whole idea of, they are the seeds of our myth and our legends. Number 3, if the Black Tower had ajahs, what do you think some of them might be? So I'm not quite sure how they would organize themselves, but a few examples I think the Black Tower would have are civil works and civil engineering. Think like our Army Corps of Engineers and city engineers and stuff like that, building roads, dams, and in this case maybe some walls, stuff like that going on in Randland. We saw them building the Black Tower actually with the power, so there's got to be a good subset of Ashaman who can build with earth and do pretty impressive works that way. So I definitely think this is one area that they can excel in. Second one I think that they're going to have an important part of, and this is all based upon AMoL, our logistics division, for lack of a better term. Basically, Ashaman specialize in using gateways, whether they be large, small, they can do, multiple, anything like that. Which would allow for fast and easy transportation of goods, services, and people. We already kind of saw these things happening towards the end of the series, even with the White Tower, where they had specific Aes Sedai on duty to open and close gateways for people at scheduled times. So I do think that would be a kind of logical next step for the gateway weaves. Another one I think that the Ashaman could really have and do well with are research and development. This would have a lot of crossover with the White Tower's Browns, given that they would be able to, share research and compare findings. They may have a slightly antagonistic view at first, but, if they can work past their differences, they can eventually work together and the sum can be greater than the parts. I also think, just like the White Tower, that the Black Tower will probably have a medically focused wing. They've got Dahmer Flynn, who's one of the best healers that's ever lived, along with Nynaeve. So I definitely think there's going to be some good overlap there with the Yellow Ajah, and again, it'll just be similar to the situation with the Browns. Basically, can think of it like two university learning hospitals that are kind of in friendly competition with each other, but ultimately at the end of the day, they share research and they share findings to better the lives of everyone. And of course, the last one, I would be remiss if I didn't say it, a combat/battle ajah. The Ashaman are clearly martially focused. That's their primary thing when they first are founded, and I do believe that will continue to be a huge focus for them moving on into the future, at least for the maybe next 2 centuries. Number 4. Who's a character you wouldn't want to meet in real life? I wouldn't really want to meet Mat. As much as I like reading his perspectives and I enjoy his comical outlook on life, I just think Mat would be kind of grating personally from how I live my life. So, I wouldn't necessarily... The old adage is don't meet your heroes, and I think that holds true even with characters you love from a book. You may not want to meet them. Number 5, who's a character from another book that would make a great warder? I think Vin from Mistborn would be a fantastic warder. She's kind of paranoid enough to always keep an eye out. She is ridiculously strong and powerful with allomancy, and even without it, she's a pretty alright fighter. She can hold her own in a little bit of a scrap. So yeah, I think she'd be a pretty awesome warder. She might need a little bit of coaxing to enjoy normal life, but everyone's got issues. Number 6, what's a scene from the books you're excited to see on screen? Super excited to see the Horn of Valir be blown at the end of the Great Hunt. I really want that scene. And yeah, I'm full on # let Barney blow. Number 7, what are your favorite and least favorite book covers? I've actually already done a video on my favorite book covers. I'll try to include it up here, maybe. But my least favorite one is Winter's Heart. I don't know why, but to me that is the blandest cover of the entire series. It might just be the fact that it's snowy and everyone looks like they're miserable trudging through snow. So maybe I feel their misery and that's why I don't like it so much. Number 9, if you could make your own ter'angreal, what would it look like and what would it do? So I'd make something that's in the shape of like a small key fob. And basically it would allow non-channelers to open gateways and travel without the use of a channeler. I think that would probably be one of the greatest benefits to all of society, though we might need a little bit of licensing on how, like, you might have to take a class, like, so you don't open a gateway in the middle of, I don't know, a building and cut a support structure or something like that. Or they might have to develop dampening to where, like we have no fly zones over cities. They may have to develop some kind of dampening technology or weave, so you can't just go outside of a designated area. However, I do think that would be extremely beneficial to all of the people of the Westlands. Number 10, what's another book series you think a Wheel of Time fan might like? Definitely Stormlight Archives. I think that's easy pickings. Sanderson wrote the last 3 books, and he's fairly highly regarded across the entire fantasy fandom. So I think Wheel of Time fans would have very little issue picking up Stormlight Archive and digging in. He wears his influences clearly on his sleeve. He's not trying to hide them at all. The Wheel of Time influences are strongly present in the Stormlight Archives, and that's not a bad thing. All right, that's the end of the test. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. For my person I'm going to tag, I'm going to hit up my co-host Drew, as he was not initially tagged, and kind of pester him to get this done and see what his answers are. So yeah, again, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed my answers to these questions. If you want to join in, just even if you're not specifically a Wheel of Time creator, feel free. It's open to all. Don't forget to go ahead and like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and I will see you all next time.